welcome to this deep dive, just for you. It feels like everywhere you look, the world is changing.
Yeah.
Economically, technologically, environmentally.
Yeah.
Even time itself seems up for grabs. We got a stack of AP articles here to dissect.
Okay.
Covering entertainment, science, business.
Yeah.
And, of course, a bit of politics for good measure.
Sounds good.
We're going to pull out the surprising facts, see how they connect, and leave you with something to ponder.
Okay.
So let's dive right in, starting with death.
Okay.
But with a sci-fi twist. Robert Pattinson, right?
Of course, yeah, the Twilight heartthrob.
Well, he's starring in this new film called Mickey 17, directed by Bong Joon-ho,
Okay.
the mastermind behind Parasite.
I know him.
His character is an expendable, basically cloned back to life after each death.
Wow.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah.
And in some pretty creative ways. So that kind of forces us to think about the implications of this technology, right?
Yeah, it does.
Would life have the same meaning if death wasn't permanent? And what are the ethics of constantly cloning someone?
Yeah.
Especially against their will, which seems to be the case in the film.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there, because then we start thinking about the ethics of it all, you know, and what kind of a society would allow that.
Exactly. And knowing Bong Joon-ho, there's probably some social commentary woven in there, too.
Most likely.
Speaking of which, the film also features Mark Ruffalo playing this leader, who the article describes as pompous, with supporters sporting those familiar red baseball caps.
I've seen him.
So it seems like a clear nod to certain political figures who thrive on populism.
Right.
Makes you wonder about the effectiveness of those tactics.
It does. It makes you wonder how, you know, I guess if it works, then it works, right? But, you know, if you look at something like the egg shortage earlier this year.
The what?
The egg shortage.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a basic necessity.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Even that became politicized.
What happened with the egg shortage?
So prices hit record highs, partly due to a bird flu outbreak. But the interesting part is how both Democrats and those in Trump's camp used it to their advantage.
Oh, wow.
So the Democrats, they were pointing to it as evidence of, you know, economic instability under Biden.
Right.
And then those in Trump's camp were saying, well, this is Biden's fault.
Wow, so even something as simple as eggs become part of the political game.
Exactly.
Kind of a scary thought.
It highlights how complex issues get simplified, spun to fit a certain narrative.
It's true.
Right.
And that manipulation of narrative extends into other areas, too.
Oh, yeah.
For example, Amazon is experimenting with AI to dub movies on Prime Video. Yeah, so it's being described as like a hybrid approach.
Yeah.
They're still using human actors for quality control.
Okay.
But it definitely raises some questions.
It does.
Like, what happens to voice actors?
Yeah.
If this technology takes off?
Yeah. Where do they go? What do they do?
What about the nuances of performance?
Yeah.
And the art of dubbing itself?
Exactly.
And it's not just Amazon.
No.
YouTube and Meta are also looking into AI dubbing. So the accessibility it offers is huge.
Right.
Potentially opening up content to wider audiences.
Yeah, that's true.
But the potential job displacement is a real concern.
Definitely.
Not to mention the implications for artistic integrity.
Exactly. And, you know, you said it earlier. I think it was you that said it. It's like AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for less than good.
Absolutely.
Right.
And speaking of the potential downsides of AI, Google is taking things a step further.
Okay.
They're now using AI to generate those little overviews you see in search results.
Interesting.
So those summaries might not even be written by a human.
Wow.
That's a little unsettling.
It's a little scary.
And there are some valid concerns.
Yeah, what are they?
What about the potential for misinformation?
Right.
Experts call them AI hallucinations, where the AI essentially makes things up.
Oh, wow.
So we might not be able to trust that what we're reading is even accurate.
Right, because Google has become the source of, you know, truth for so many people.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean?
It is. It's like we just automatically trust what we see there.
Right.
Plus, if those AI summaries become the primary way that people get information, what happens to online publishers who rely on clicks to their sites?
Exactly. And it's...
Google already holds so much power.
So much.
When it comes to information access.
It's true.
It definitely raises some big questions.
Big ones.
About the future of online information. And how we discern truth from fiction.
Yeah, how do you even do that anymore?
It's hard.
It is.
Speaking of truth and information.
Yeah.
Did you see that study about butterfly populations?
No, I didn't.
Apparently, they've dropped by 22% in the U.S. since 2000.
Wow, 22%. That's a lot.
It is.
That's a huge amount.
And, it's not just about butterflies.
Right. It's a sign of...
It's a sign of broader ecosystem decline.
Yeah.
Impacting everything from pollination to entire food webs.
Yeah. And ultimately, it impacts us.
It's like a domino effect.
It is a domino effect.
And the article highlighted that the hardest hit area is the Southwest.
Okay.
And climate change is thought to be a major factor.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a canary in a coal mine, isn't it?
Yeah.
If butterflies are struggling.
Yeah.
What does that say about the larger state of our environment?
It's a sobering thought.
It is.
It is.
Speaking of things that make you think.
Uh-oh.
Let's move on to politics. Trump recently signed an executive order to make English the official language of the U.S. Many states already have similar laws.
Yeah.
But this move has reignited debates about inclusivity.
Right.
And access to government services.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially given what's been happening with the Spanish language version of the White House website, right?
Oh, yeah. What happened there?
It was removed.
Okay.
Then restored.
Mm-hmm.
Then removed again.
Oh, wow.
Back and forth several times.
Really?
It's a highly symbolic act.
It is.
Raising questions about what it means to be American.
Yeah.
In an increasingly diverse society.
Right.
So sure.
So, I guess what it comes down to is like, whose country is it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
And, it's a tough question.
It is.
Especially in a nation of immigrants,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So.
And on a completely different note,
Okay.
Trump also signed an order to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Oh, wow.
That was a surprise to many.
It was.
But it does reflect changing attitudes towards cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin. Yeah. To be honest, I'm still a little fuzzy on what Bitcoin actually is.
Okay, well, it's essentially a digital currency that operates independently of central banks or governments. Some see it as a hedge against inflation.
Oh, okay.
Which is a big concern for many voters right now.
I can see that.
But it's a highly volatile market.
Okay.
So it's not without its risks.
So kind of a gamble?
Kind of.
It sounds a bit like the Wild West of finance.
In a way it is, but it's definitely shaking things up and raising important questions about the future of finance.
For sure.
Speaking of shaking things up,
yeah.
Have you been following the stock market lately?
I try to keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
But it can be a bit of a roller coaster ride.
It has been volatile lately.
Yeah.
Especially for companies that are heavily involved in AI.
Okay.
So, some of the biggest names like Marvell Technology, NVIDIA, Broadcom have seen their stock prices drop. So investors are getting a little more cautious, realizing that the AI boom might not be sustainable at its current pace.
Plus, there's all the geopolitical tension.
Oh, yeah.
Like the trade war between the U.S. and China.
Of course.
Are there any winners in a situation like that?
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
The impact is felt globally, creating uncertainty across markets and industries.
Right.
China has pushed back against the tariffs that Trump imposed, calling them bullying and claiming their economy can handle the pressure. Right. But the truth is, trade wars rarely have clear winners.
It's like a giant game of tug of war.
It is.
With the whole world caught in the middle.
Exactly.
And speaking of the interconnectedness of things, remember that strange affliction affecting sawfish in Florida?
Oh, yeah, the ones that were spinning around.
Yeah, they were spinning around erratically.
Yeah.
And many were dying.
What was the cause of that? Did they ever figure that out?
It's still a bit of a mystery.
What?
They tested for everything. Parasites, bacteria, viruses, even red tide.
Wow.
The only thing they found were some changes in brain tissue.
Okay.
But nothing definitive.
So they're still not sure.
It's like an underwater detective story.
It is.
One theory is that last year's prolonged heat wave linked to climate change might have altered the algae near the seafloor where sawfish feed.
Okay.
So another potential consequence of climate change. It's like that butterfly situation. But this time it's happening in the ocean.
Right.
It makes you wonder what other unexpected consequences we're going to see as our climate continues to change.
It's scary to think about.
It is.
On a lighter note, we often complain about changing the clocks twice a year.
Oh, absolutely.
For daylight saving time.
I'm always forgetting which way to turn the clocks.
Right.
Like, do I go forward? Do I go back?
It actually has a fascinating history.
Oh, really?
So the idea was first proposed back in the late 1800s. Okay.
But it wasn't until World War I that it really took off.
Interesting.
Germany adopted it as an energy-saving measure.
Okay.
And other countries, including the U.S., followed suit.
Makes sense, especially during wartime when resources are scarce.
Exactly.
Right.
And during World War II, the U.S. even had what they called wartime.
Okay.
Year-round. But after the war, things got a bit chaotic.
Oh, how so?
Some areas stuck with daylight saving time, while others abandoned it, creating a real patchwork of timekeeping across the country.
I can imagine the confusion, especially for people traveling.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Imagine crossing state lines and having to change your watch multiple times.
Just to keep up.
Right.
Oh, my gosh.
So Congress eventually stepped in
Okay.
and passed the Uniform Time Act in 1966,
Okay.
which brought some order to the chaos.
So that's why we still have daylight saving time today.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
But there's still debate.
About whether we should stick with it.
Okay.
Or go to standard time year-round.
It seems like that debate pops up every year.
It does.
What are the arguments for each side?
So those who support standard time year-round argue that the time changes disrupt our natural sleep patterns.
Right.
And can even have negative health effects.
Yeah.
Plus, they argue that the energy savings originally associated with daylight saving time are negligible. On the other hand, those who support keeping daylight saving time argue that it gives us more daylight hours in the evening during the summer, which is great for outdoor activities.
That's true.
And can even boost retail sales.
Oh, interesting. So there are pros and cons to both sides.
Exactly.
And the debate continues.
It does.
But, there are places that embraced daylight saving time early on.
Oh, yeah. Like where?
Did you know that the Canadian city of Thunder Bay was one of them?
No, I didn't know that.
So back in 1908, they decided to shift to the Eastern time zone for the summer and fall months to maximize daylight.
I guess they really like their sunshine up there.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
And there was some initial confusion.
Oh, really?
So one part of the city stayed on Eastern time.
Okay.
While the others switched back. Leading to some scheduling headaches.
Yeah.
But today, they fully embrace daylight saving time and enjoy those long summer evenings.
That's great.
That's a great example of a local community finding a solution that works for them. The economy.
Okay.
And how it's affecting people on a personal level.
Good point.
It's easy to get caught up in the big picture.
Yeah.
And forget about the individuals who are impacted by these larger economic forces.
Exactly.
The uncertainty surrounding Trump's trade policies, for example, is definitely weighing heavily on investor sentiment.
It is, it's hard for businesses to plan and invest when the rules of the game keep changing.
Exactly.
And it's not just tariffs.
Yeah.
Trump's federal layoffs and promises of mass deportations are also creating unease.
It's like the ground is constantly shifting.
It is.
Making it hard to find solid footing.
Yeah, it makes it hard for everybody. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Like to just feel comfortable in,
where you are.
In your own country.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus, there's this underlying anxiety about a potential recession.
Absolutely.
So are we headed for a recession?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
Economists are watching the data closely, but it's still too early to make a definitive call.
Okay.
There are definitely some warning signs.
Like what?
Well, the job market has been surprisingly resilient.
Okay.
Employers added a solid 151,000 jobs last month.
Okay, that's good.
But the unemployment rate ticked up slightly to 4.1%. And some big retailers are hinting that consumer spending might be slowing down.
Oh, so those are the warning signs.
Yes. Yeah. Those are some of the warning signs.
Okay.
But there are also some positive indicators.
So it sounds like we're in a bit of a holding pattern.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, businesses are trying to adapt
right.
and navigate this uncertain terrain.
Speaking of adapting, what's happening in the healthcare industry?
Okay.
It seems like that's always in flux.
It certainly is.
Walgreens, for instance, is being acquired by a private equity firm.
Really?
Called Sycamore Partners.
Interesting.
They've been struggling for a while.
Okay.
Facing challenges like thin prescription reimbursements, rising costs, and even persistent theft.
Wow.
It's hard to believe that even a giant like Walgreens is vulnerable to those kinds of pressures.
It goes to show that no industry is immune to disruption.
Right.
And with inflation putting a squeeze on everyone, we're likely to see more companies in various sectors looking for ways to consolidate and streamline their operations.
It makes you wonder what the future holds for those traditional brick-and-mortar stores.
It's a valid question.
Like, are we going to be seeing more and more of them close their doors?
Right.
Or are they going to find a way to reinvent themselves?
The lines between online and offline are blurring.
Yeah.
And adapting to this new reality is crucial for survival.
But on a more positive note, some companies are finding innovative ways to address pressing environmental challenges.
Like what?
Like revive environmental technology.
Okay.
They've actually developed a way to destroy PFAS.
Oh, wow.
Those forever chemicals that are contaminating our water.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that amazing?
It's encouraging to see companies using their resources and ingenuity to find solutions to these complex issues.
Yeah, it's like a beacon of hope amidst all the doom and gloom we've been discussing.
It is.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
It's been a whirlwind tour of everything from the stock market and politics to butterfly populations and the mysteries of sawfish.
It has been a lot.
What do you think are some of the key themes that have emerged so far?
I'd say the overarching theme is one of rapid change and uncertainty, but also of resilience and adaptation.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
We're seeing this play out in every aspect of our lives.
Absolutely.
From the technology we use to the food we eat.
Right.
Even the very way we measure time.
It's true.
And with so much in flux, it's more important than ever to cultivate critical thinking skills. Stay informed.
Right.
And remain open to new perspectives.
Absolutely.
We'll delve deeper into all of this in the next part of our deep dive. But before we go, I want to leave our listener with a question to ponder.
Okay.
With all these changes swirling around us, how can we best navigate this new world? What skills, knowledge, and mindsets will be most valuable as we face the challenges and opportunities of the future?
That's a great question to consider.
It is.
And hopefully by the end of this deep dive, we'll have some answers.
We'll be back soon with part 2.
Great.
Until then, keep exploring.
I will.
Yeah.
As we delve deeper into these seemingly disparate topics, what strikes me is how interconnected they truly are.
It's like a giant web, isn't it? You pull on one thread.
It is.
Economics, technology, environment, politics.
Exactly.
And it ripples through everything else.
Exactly. Take the Walgreens acquisition by a private equity firm.
Yeah.
On the surface, it's a business deal, but it reflects larger economic trends, like the pressure on traditional retailers from online giants and rising inflation.
And it makes you think about the human impact, too.
Right.
What happens to people who rely on Walgreens for their prescriptions and healthcare needs?
Right.
Does access change?
Right. Does affordability become an issue when profits are the priority?
Right, exactly.
It's a crucial question.
Yeah.
That often gets overlooked when we talk about these big financial moves. It's true. And speaking of human impact, we've been talking about AI disrupting industries like entertainment and information access, but it's also making waves in healthcare.
That's right. From AI-powered diagnostics to personalized medicine, the possibilities are pretty amazing.
They are, but with any new technology, ethical considerations need to be addressed.
Of course.
For instance, how do we ensure that AI is used responsibly in healthcare?
Right.
And doesn't exacerbate existing inequalities?
It's a valid concern.
We have to be cautious about relying solely on algorithms for diagnoses or treatment plans.
That's a good point. We can't forget the human element in all of this.
Exactly.
Speaking of the human element.
Yeah.
I keep thinking back to those declining butterfly populations.
Yeah.
It's just one example, but it really drives home the interconnectedness of all living things.
It's a powerful symbol. We tend to get caught up in our own human world.
Right.
And forget that we're part of a much larger ecosystem.
Exactly.
And that ecosystem is facing some serious challenges right now. Many of them due to human activity.
Climate change, habitat loss, pesticide use.
Exactly.
It all adds up.
It does.
And we see the consequences in ways we don't always expect.
Right.
Like with the sawfish in Florida.
Yeah.
The spinning, dying sawfish.
Right.
We might not fully understand the cause, but it's hard not to connect it to the larger environmental shifts happening around us.
It's like nature is sending us a message.
Yeah.
Urging us to pay attention and change course.
The
health of our planet is inextricably linked to our own well-being.
You know, that reminds me of the debate about seed oils.
Oh, yeah.
And how passionately people feel about them. You have one side saying they're fueling inflammation and chronic diseases, while others, including many nutrition scientists, maintain that they're perfectly fine and even offer some health benefits.
Right.
It's a great example of how even something seemingly simple like cooking oil can become a battleground of conflicting information.
It can.
It's hard to know who to trust.
It is.
Especially with social media amplifying these debates.
All right, and everybody's an expert.
Right.
Online.
It can feel overwhelming, for sure.
It can.
Maybe the takeaway is to focus on finding credible sources, consulting with qualified experts, and ultimately listening to our own bodies.
I think that's sound advice for navigating pretty much any topic these days. And speaking of navigating a world of conflaring information, it's hard to ignore how intensely political everything has become.
It feels like every issue, no matter how small,
it does,
gets pulled into the political arena.
It does.
Like even the price of eggs becomes a talking point for both sides of the aisle.
Exactly. It's a reflection of the deep divisions within our society.
Right.
Divisions that are often exploited for political gain. We see it with the push for English as the official language. The back and forth with the Spanish language White House website. These symbolic acts tap into larger anxieties and fuel the us versus them mentality.
Yeah, it's very divisive.
It is.
And it's not limited to national politics either.
Yeah.
We're seeing geopolitical tensions rise, like the ongoing trade war between the U.S. and China, which further adds to the sense of instability.
Absolutely. The tariffs imposed by Trump have triggered a series of retaliatory measures from China, creating uncertainty for businesses and consumers worldwide.
Right.
It's a reminder that we live in an interconnected world. And actions taken in one country can have far-reaching consequences.
It's almost like we're trapped in a cycle of reaction and counter-reaction.
It is.
With no clear end in sight.
It can feel that way, but amidst all this, there are moments of inspiration, too.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Did you hear about the latest SpaceX Starship test flight?
I did.
It ended in another dramatic explosion. But the audacity of the endeavor is still pretty remarkable.
It's true. Even though it wasn't a success, the pursuit of space exploration embodies a certain spirit of innovation and perseverance.
Exactly. It reminds us that progress isn't always linear.
There will be setbacks and failures along the way.
Right.
But the willingness to keep pushing boundaries, to keep learning and evolving, that's what ultimately drives us forward.
It's like that saying, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
I love that. And speaking of shooting for the moon, Trump's decision to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve has certainly sparked a lot of conversation about the future of finance.
It definitely has. Some people view it as a forward-thinking move, recognizing the growing importance of cryptocurrency.
Right.
But others are more skeptical, questioning the long-term viability of Bitcoin and its potential risks.
Exactly.
It's a fascinating debate, highlighting the rapid evolution of financial systems. And the uncertainty surrounding it.
For sure.
Traditional currencies are being challenged, and people are searching for alternative ways to manage their assets, especially with anxieties about inflation and economic instability on the rise.
It's like a digital gold rush, with everyone trying to stake their claim in this new frontier.
It is.
But as with any gold rush, there will be winners and losers.
For sure.
It's a high-stakes game, for sure.
It is.
But let's step back from the world of finance for a moment.
Okay.
And revisit the theme of our interconnectedness with the natural world. We were talking about butterflies earlier.
Right.
And it made me think about how even seemingly insignificant creatures play a vital role in the ecosystem.
It's true. We tend to focus on the big, charismatic animals. But the smaller, less glamorous species are just as important.
Absolutely.
They're all part of a delicate web of life.
And that web is increasingly under threat from human activities.
It is.
The declining butterfly populations, the spinning sawfish. These are just two examples of the many ways we're impacting the natural world.
And the scary part is that we often don't fully understand the consequences of our actions until it's too late. It's a stark reminder that we need to approach our relationship with nature with more humility and respect. We're not separate from it, we're a part of it. And our survival depends on the health of the planet.
You know, that brings to mind another trend we've seen in recent years.
What's that?
Corporate consolidation across various industries.
Right.
We talked about Walgreens being acquired, but it's happening everywhere.
It's true, and these mergers and acquisitions often have ripple effects that go beyond the companies involved. They can impact consumers, workers, and the overall economy.
We often see reduced competition, leading to higher prices and fewer choices for consumers.
Right.
Plus, these consolidations can lead to job losses.
Yeah.
And a concentration of power in the hands of a few.
It raises concerns about economic inequality.
It does.
And whether our current system is truly serving the needs of the people.
That's a lot to think about.
It is.
And while we're grappling with these big picture issues, technology continues to advance at an incredible pace.
It does.
Shaping our lives in ways we never could have imagined.
Technology is a double-edged sword, wouldn't you say?
It is. It connects us, informs us, and empowers us in incredible ways. But it also has the potential to distract us, manipulate us, and even harm us.
You only need to look at the impact of social media to see that in action.
Yeah.
It's a powerful tool for communication and connection, but it can also be a breeding ground for misinformation echo chambers and a whole lot of negativity.
It's true.
The algorithms that curate our online experiences play a significant role in that. They often prioritize engagement over accuracy, feeding us content that confirms our existing beliefs rather than challenging them.
It's true.
And that can lead to increased polarization and a decline in civil discourse. It's like we're losing the ability to have productive conversations with people who hold different views.
It's sad, but it's true. Which is why it's more important than ever to be mindful of the information we consume.
Yes.
To seek out diverse perspectives and to engage in critical thinking.
We need to develop those critical thinking skills, not just for ourselves, but to help others navigate this increasingly complex information landscape.
Like we need to become digital detectives, constantly evaluating sources, questioning assumptions, and looking for evidence.
Well said. And I think that mindset extends beyond the digital realm. We need to apply that same level of critical thinking to all areas of our lives.
To be curious, to ask questions, to challenge the status quo, and to recognize that even in the face of rapid change and uncertainty, we have the power to shape the future we want to create.
That's a powerful thought.
It is.
And it leads us to the question we posed at the end of part 1.
Okay.
How do we thrive in this new world? What skills, knowledge, and mindsets will be most valuable as we navigate the uncertainties of the future?
We'll tackle those questions in part 3, but for now, I'd love for our listener to reflect on what we've discussed so far.
Yeah.
Are there any themes that particularly resonate with you? What questions or concerns are top of mind for you as you think about the future?
We've covered a lot of ground, but it's all connected.
It is.
And your individual journey through this changing world is just as important as the larger trends we've been discussing.
We'll be back soon to wrap things up.
Yeah.
And hopefully provide some insights and inspiration for navigating the path ahead. We're back for the final part of our deep dive into a world in constant motion.
It has been quite a journey.
It really has. We've explored everything from the vastness of space to the intricacies of the human brain, from political maneuvering to those tiny but crucial butterflies.
So much to think about.
And through it all, we keep bumping up against this theme of needing to adapt, to be resilient, and to think critically about the world around us.
Absolutely. Those are definitely essential skills for navigating the times we're living in.
So let's try to answer that big question we've been pondering.
Okay.
How do we thrive in this new world? What specific skills and mindsets will help us not just survive, but actually flourish?
I think a good place to start is with a commitment to lifelong learning.
Okay.
The pace of technological change is so rapid that what we know today might be outdated tomorrow.
So it's not just about gathering information, but about continuously updating and adapting our skill set.
Exactly.
Almost like our brains need to become those Starship spacecraft, always ready for the next upgrade to tackle a new challenge.
That's a great analogy, and it applies across the board, from the arts to the sciences, from business to healthcare.
Right.
We need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable with stepping outside our comfort zones and embracing new ways of thinking and doing.
So having a growth mindset is key.
It is.
But we can't do it alone, can we?
No, we can't.
Everything we've discussed highlights how interconnected we are.
Absolutely. Cultivating strong collaboration skills is crucial. Whether we're talking about tackling climate change, navigating the complexities of global trade, or even just having productive conversations with people who hold different opinions. We need to be able to work effectively with others.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another essential skill.
Yeah.
Communication. We are bombarded with information from every direction.
We are.
So being able to communicate clearly, concisely, and persuasively is more important than ever.
Especially in a world where misinformation and disinformation spread so easily, we need to be savvy consumers of information.
Right.
Able to evaluate sources, identify bias, and separate fact from fiction.
It's like we need a built-in BS detector.
We do.
To filter through all the noise and those AI hallucinations we were talking about.
Exactly. But it's not just about spotting falsehoods. It's also about articulating our own thoughts and ideas effectively. We need to engage in meaningful dialogue, bridge divides, and find common ground even when we disagree.
So it's not just about speaking, but also about listening. Really listening.
Yeah.
Understand different perspectives.
You've hit the nail on the head. Empathy and active listening are crucial. Especially in a world that feels increasingly polarized.
Yeah.
If we can understand and appreciate where others are coming from, even if we don't agree with them, that's where real progress can happen.
It's about building bridges instead of walls.
It is.
And I think this all ties into the importance of developing emotional intelligence.
Yes.
We've seen how anxiety and uncertainty are almost a given in today's world.
It's true, being able to manage our own emotion, to cope with stress and setbacks, to maintain a sense of optimism and purpose.
Right.
These are essential skills for navigating the turbulence.
It's not just about IQ anymore. It's about EQ.
Exactly.
That emotional intelligence being just as important, if not more so.
Precisely. And that's where I think the arts and humanities play a vital role.
Okay.
They help us cultivate empathy, critical thinking, creativity, and communication skills.
So it's not just about STEM fields anymore.
No.
It's about STEAM.
Yes.
Adding that A for arts and humanities to create well-rounded, adaptable individuals.
I like that scheme, not just STEM.
And we can't forget about physical and mental well-being.
Of course not.
With the constant demands of a digital world.
Yeah.
It's more important than ever to prioritize our health, to make sure we're getting enough sleep, exercise, and finding healthy ways to manage stress.
Absolutely.
You know, it's funny. We started this deep dive talking about Robert Pattinson dying over and over again.
I know.
In that sci-fi film.
Right.
Maybe the real lesson is that we all need to become a little more like those expendables ourselves.
I see what you mean.
Right, not the dying part.
Not the dying part.
But that ability to bounce back from setbacks, to constantly learn and evolve, and to see change as an opportunity for growth, not just something to fear.
Well put, and we can't forget that we only have one planet.
Which means finding ways to live more sustainably is no longer optional.
It's not.
Addressing climate change and protecting biodiversity are essential, not just for the health of the planet, but for our own survival.
And it goes beyond individual actions.
It does.
We need systemic change. We need to hold our leaders accountable and demand policies that prioritize the well-being of both people and the planet.
It's a call to action for all of us to be informed, engaged citizens who use our voices and our actions to create a better future.
Because ultimately, thriving in this new world isn't just about individual success, it's about collective well-being. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness, embracing our shared humanity, and working together to create a future that's not just technologically advanced, but also socially, just environmentally sustainable and full of possibility.
That's a beautiful vision. And a perfect note to end our deep dive on. We've explored some challenging topics.
We have.
But I hope our listener comes away feeling not overwhelmed, but empowered.
Empowered to embrace the changes that are already happening and to shape the future they want to see.
To our listener out there, thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope it sparked your curiosity, challenged your assumptions, and giving you some food for thought.
And remember, this is just the beginning. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep striving to make a positive impact.
The future is ours to shape until next time. Stay curious and keep diving deep.